Good evening and welcome to Snarky's Tuesday Night with David Nolan and Sean. Guys,
Good evening.
good to see you. We missed last week because I had stuff on, unfortunately. But these things happen. Life gets in the way sometimes. So tonight we will continue where we left off the week before, which was watching RoboCop. And I hope you've all had a chance to review it because it's actually a pretty good movie. Shall I just dig straight into my blurb? Yeah.
Pretty good. It's bloody amazing, Sergeant Grumpy. What are you saying?
Right, well, let's discuss it. Let's find out.
Let's do
Right,
it.
let's start with what works, shall we? Peter Weller's performance as our titular Tin Man is absolutely sublime. The way he moves, that deliberate mechanical gait, it's like watching a method actor who's genuinely convinced he's part machine. Meanwhile, half the Marvel actors can barely convince us they're human beings, never mind superheroes. And what can we talk about Ronny Cox? This man is corporate evil incarnate. It's like every hedge fund manager had a baby with a parking meter. His portrayal of Dick Jones is so deliciously slimy. You need a hazmat suit just to shake his hand. And when he finally gets his comeuppance, it's more satisfying than ever actually making a delivery on time. Verhoeven's advertising apocalypse. Now, here's where Verhoeven shows he's got more brains than a zombie buffet. Those adverts peppered throughout the film. I'd buy that for $1. It's not just a catchphrase. It's a bloody prophecy of our current hellscape where everything's for sale, including your grandmother's browsing history. The man basically predicted social media 15 years before Zuckerberg crawled out of whatever algorithmic swamp that spawned him. And if you think these ads are good, wait until you see what he did with Starship Troopers. It makes these look like amateur or the local drama club. And then there's the less than stellar. Let's address the elephant in the room. Ed 209. Sweet suffering haggis. This thing looks like it was designed by someone who'd only ever seen a robot in a fever dream. The stop motion animation has aged about as well as milk left in a Scottish summer. I've seen more convincing movement from the mannequins at Primark. But here's the thing, and pay attention because I'm only saying this once. It doesn't bloody matter. The film's so committed to its satirical vision that even the dodgy effects become part of the charm. It's like watching your drunk uncle dance at a wedding. Technically awful, but somehow endearing and occasionally funny. Now, we've got social commentary here that actually matters, and this is where Verhoeven earns his chips. RoboCop isn't just about a dead copper turned into a walking tin opener. It's a savage indictment of corporate capitalism that's more relevant now than it was in 1987. OCP wants to privatise everything, including the police force. Sound familiar? That's because we're practically living in this dystopia now. Except our corporate overlords have better PR departments. The film's exploration of identity, humanity, and what happens when profit motives override basic human decency. It's like Verhoeven had a crystal ball. Except instead of seeing the future, he just looked at Reagan's America and extrapolated the logical conclusion. RoboCop is a film that's simultaneously dated and timeless, a bit like Madonna, but with fewer additions and questionable accent choices. It's a pleasant way to spend 102 minutes. And while some elements haven't aged gracefully, the core message still hits harder than a Glasgow kiss. Verhoeven created something that's equal parts action flick and doctoral thesis on late-stage capitalism, wrapped up in enough violence, and it is gory, to make your granny clutch her pearls. It's everything modern superhero films pretend to be, but are too scared to actually commit to. 7 out of 10 from me. I would buy that for significantly more than $1. But then I'm not made of money and I'm tight. There you go.
Can I just ask you guys, John, Sergeant Grumpy, what is a Glasgow kiss for our audience?
It's a headbutt, mate. It's a headbutt to the mouth. My forehead in your
I'd
mouth.
buy that for $1.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's a Glasgow kiss. Because apparently we're quite famous for giving them. Why would we? I don't know. We're such a nice bunch.
I think Sergeant Grumpy, you mentioned something like, it was very well placed that if you were to remake this again today, because we had the remake in 2014, I have to give that a watch again. The guy from Altered Carbon, I forget his name. He played the lead as Murphy as RoboCop in it. But I reckon you could probably squeeze in Elon Musk.
Was he in The
Alex
Expanse?
Karp.
No.
Hey?
Was that guy in The Expanse? No.
I'm not sure.
Right, anyway, sorry.
His name escapes me. I said you could probably get some Dick Jones-like characters in there, like Alex Karp of like Palantir, Peter Thiel as well. I think
Musk,
like because you got that fantastic. It's like Verhoeven. He kind of signaled to the future, and I'm sure we're going to get into that like later on about the state of things as they were in the 80s. It's kind of continued on to the present, hasn't it?
It has very much so. I'm just trying to see who was in that remake. Gary Oldman, Michael Keaton, Abby Cornish. Joel Kinnaman.
Joel Kinnaman is the guy from Altered Carbon. He plays the lead in the first season. Yeah, it's the one.
Okay, it's not the guy I was thinking of. No. Yeah. But yeah, okay, fair dues. But yeah.
Hello to the troll room as well. Lots of people are piling in.
Certainly are. Julie, good to see you again. Espresso Mechanic. Shalini. Hi, Shalini. Shalini has hot red faces. I think she's sweaty. Dread Eye and Julie. Oh, who else we got? And that's about it at the moment. Yeah. But if you're on the vertical chat, feel free to pop in at any point. Nobody will bite. If you want more chat, go to the horizontal. There's more people in there. Some of the regulars. They don't bite either. They're usually pretty
harmless. All the cool kids hang out in horizontal.
Yeah, all the cool kids. Yeah. My God, you've just aged us by 40 years. There we go. We're now back in the 80s. Well, we might as well be, because this was what, 87? RoboCop?
87.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sean, do you want to go next? Let's throw it over to you, mate. Go for it.
I remember watching RoboCop a few years back when I was doing this special review in college where I was reviewing both this and the remake. And during my first watch of that, I did enjoy it, and I did think that some of the effects were a bit dated. But and as someone who does animation, which I have done, like I seen the stop motion animations for the big droid thing, and it is very dated. I think some modern effects could do a bit better, but it was still good for the time, honestly. So at least decent then.
Oh, I think Sean's frozen.
Is it generally just like they're still hard and like make references to this day?
Sorry, you kind of froze. Could you say your last part again? You kind of froze.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi shite here.
Don't sugarcoat
it. See, what was I? Blah blah blah. Effects.
You were up about you spoke about the effects and how dated they were.
Yeah, the effects were a bit dated, and they were good for the time. But now I think a lot of things could do a better job with some of the effects. And let's see. Crap! Now I'm lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Yeah. The acting was really good. It was enjoyable, and it is generally a good 80s film to have us just sit down and watch when you want to just like try something new. And this is basically a cult classic in some sense, where it's a lot of people just love it. It has influenced many other media today with a bunch of references and all that stuff. Something I found really actually quite profound and actually really interesting is that the sort of progression of the main character in this. Obviously, after Murphy gets shot to hell, he's basically performed on without his proper consent, to basically turn into like a living, robot. which is kind of creepy in some sense. Imagine like that's like definitely a fear to have, especially with the government nowadays. But as it sort of progresses, he's sort of like turned into this like pure robotic being. This like no real not much traces of his old self. But as the film progresses, he sort of tries to like get it back in some ways. Trying to solve his own murder, trying to take down the ones responsible. And by the end of the film, he's neither Murphy or RoboCop. He's like a mixture of both.
Yeah.
So that's something I really did find really quite interesting about this film, that it did that. And funny enough about the remake, it was different. Like he was more self-aware about it in the beginning after he was after the whole surgery thing.
Yeah.
And it was more about like fighting against the robot corruption. Just like basically turning him into a weapon.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of difference between this film and the remake. That and the remake focuses more about his family and how they would react to the whole situation, whereas this film just applies like they all heard he died and then they moved away.
Yeah.
So it's good to see this. So it's good to see the two different takes on that. And I think this film does a really decent job of trying to progress the characters, especially Murphy. I think this film was also definitely one of the most gruesome films I've seen in a while. Like definitely has one of the more gruesome deaths. Some people just like blown, like Murphy, he was like literally shot to hell in the beginning. And one of the most gruesome deaths I've ever seen in any fiction or media was that guy, one of the men who shot him in the beginning, being poured in by toxic waste and basically becoming sludge of his almost self. Like,
Toxic Avenger kind of.
They get hit by a car
and then being hit by a car going splat.
Yeah,
like, good Jesus Christ!
I can tell
I've seen worse than that, mate.
I can tell you a story about that, but we'll leave that for a Friday night.
I've seen more gruesome deaths in media. I've seen more gruesome deaths.
Oh no, I'm talking real life.
Oh, you were a police officer, so that makes sense.
What was I going to say? Jeez, right, I've forgotten. Carry on. Sorry.
I think this film does have a satisfying conclusion to the story, especially sort of like a sort of poetic sort of thing, where in the beginning, that poor intern guy was basically shot to hell after a malfunction with a droid, and in this one is RoboCop who shoots the guy who made the droid, and it's sort of poetic justice in a way.
Yeah, karma.
Yeah.
Karma is
definitely karma. I would have more to say. Like if we had done this like a week ago, I'd probably have more to say. Like much more fresh in my mind. But overall, I did really enjoy it. I think it's a good film for people to watch of any age. Well, obviously not little kids.
Well,
they should watch it. But like,
no.
but like any kind of generation should watch this. It's a genuinely good film. It holds some parts. Some parts it doesn't hold up. Mainly the stop motion part. But like overall, I think it is a alright film, and I give it a 7.5 out of 10.
If you think it's gory, you should try Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Verhoeven does good gore. Good squid fights. Yeah.
Can I turn shot up? Yeah, well, I can try. Okay. Right, keep going. Anyway, right, David, your turn.
I was just going to say, like, with you guys, just to bridge it a little bit before I kind of get into the monologue. Yeah, I can see where people are coming from regarding it. Yeah, there's some dated aspects to it. Most of that relevance is towards Ed 209. What I said in the last review a couple of weeks ago is that if you go and if you watch like RoboCop the making of, it's less than 30 minutes. It's a really interesting behind the scenes documentary, and they kind of talk more about that. And they didn't really have the budget or the technology available at the time. So they kind of push boundaries, maybe not in the same way as Industrial Light and Magic and James Cameron and his crew, what they did with Terminator, or maybe like with Aliens. One of the excuses that they used was that the CGI for that particular time, it wasn't really great. So they were left with the stop motion. So that's kind of understandable, but it is kind of funny. It provides, I think, a little bit of humor with the stop motion aspect to it as well. If they were to do it again today, I'm sure it would be a lot better. I honestly think, chaps, if they had have gotten help, if they had a cold on Stan Winston, I'm sure all of you movie film buffs out there know who Stan Winston is. He died some years ago. He's done incredible animatronics and puppetry work. And if they had a called in for his help, I reckon he could have done something a little bit better with Ed 209 to make it a little bit more realistic and maybe not use stop motion. That's just what I think. But I'll jump into the monologue now. Don't want to hog the space too much. So here's my monologue, chaps. RoboCop in every shape and form is an 80s pop culture classic. It is one of the best and most memorable sci-fi action and social satire films from that golden era, which, as I previously mentioned, brought us the Terminator, Aliens, and so much more. It's not just about the brilliant practical boom, boom, lots of explosions and other special effects from the likes of Rob Bottin or Rob Bottin, we can call him as well. It's also about the directing style of Paul Verhoeven, used that has cemented this film in history. But it's also about the poignant questions such as identity, corporate power, greed, corruption, cronyism, and I guess also consciousness. Is it or was it limited to the remnants of Murphy's brain in RoboCop, or was it something else? I'm sure we might get into that. RoboCop is a sharp, dark, nitty, gritty, definitely not a family film by any means. It's quite brutal and savage in parts, but that's where I believe that Paul Verhoeven really excelled here with the script, the cast, and his overall directing. It really was not bad at all for a then relatively unknown Dutch European director. He managed to capture, as Sergeant Grumpy John said, Reagan's America, the American 80s zeitgeist, so cleverly well. So, if you're Gen X, if Generation X, if you're a millennial, for example, like I am, and you haven't seen RoboCop from 1987, where the hell have you been? Go and watch it. It's a part of film history. So do yourself a favor, watch RoboCop from 1987. Try and get yourself a copy of the ultra high def or the 4K version, because it's really, really awesome. I would give it a straight up 8 out of 10. Cool. Back over to you guys.
So we're all pretty much agreed on
right.
It's in the top range then. One thing I was talking to Sean about earlier today, did you notice, Verhoeven has this thing about casual, non-sexual nudity from females that he kind of throws in at the beginning of every movie?
It's like boobs left, right, and centre, and all that. Yeah, in the locker room kind of stuff. Yeah,
he did exactly the same thing in Starship Troopers. And of course,
say that again.
What other films has he done? Like, I'm trying to think.
Starship Troopers.
I'm drawing a blank.
Obviously, there was a bit more of a sexual content in Showgirls.
Total Recall as well. That was Paul Verhoeven.
Total Recall. Yeah, there's casual nudity in that as well. Although three's an odd number. But he has this thing about getting boobs on screen, hasn't he?
Yeah, I get these bloody European directors, you know what I mean? Yeah, let's throw some women's breasts in there,
They're like a bit of equality,
Bit of Euro trash, yeah.
That's actually something I think. That's just actually something I found quite interesting about it. Like, they didn't emphasize on it. It was just like girls changing in the locker room, same as the guys. So I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
We didn't go awooga.
Yeah, it was just like, one of the lads having some locker room talk, So yeah, it seemed to fit quite well. But yeah, I see what you mean, John. I see what you mean.
Yeah. What anything you in particular picked out of it, Sean?
What's that now?
Anything you picked out in particular?
Because you studied this, Sean, as a kind of a project, didn't you?
Oh yeah, like it was years and years ago. Basically, it was like doing a little radio show on the campus. Basically, doing like a review between like comparing it with the remake the
Right,
original and
okay.
remake, comparing the two of them.
Cool.
Honestly, like I'm trying to remember what I thought. Like I genuinely actually like both. You know, I I also like the remake a lot because it had one of my favorite actors in it, Gary Oldman. So it was hard for me. I can't remember which one I chose, which I like better. So, and I'll probably need to watch like the remake one in order to have a proper decision about which one is my personal favorite. But I would say that this still holds up. You know.
Yeah, I really love the cast. I thought the cast were just such a great fit. They were a bit perplexed who they were going to get as RoboCop. There were some very interesting
Yeah.
Hollywood suggestions for the time, but they did so well getting Peter Weller. It took them some time to kind of to get to that conclusion, but just a fantastic choice. And the thing I said this to John kind of, you know, over another social media platform, that, you know, an actor like Peter Weller, he's just, again, he's cemented himself in film or movie history, like with RoboCop, but he was so dedicated to that role, so dedicated, and the conditions that they had when they were shooting in. So the background is it's Detroit, but they actually filmed it in Dallas, Texas, and it was sweltering hot, and it took the poor fecker like 10 to 11 hours initially to get the RoboCop costume on, designed by Rob Bottin. They got it down to 2 hours, but he had to do that
Oof.
for quite some time. So props to Peter Weller for his commitment.
I'm glad you brought that one up because
Yeah,
Peter, as it says, Peter Weller was literally melting inside the suit. The man was losing 3 pounds a day from water loss, like he was training for a marathon in a sauna. Eventually, they had to install air conditioning in the costume because it was just that bad. That's incredible.
yeah. I think RoboCop was again an example of another film. We discussed this like with Blade Runner as well, where it was just like the conditions, the environmental conditions were not good. People were pissed off. It was a very difficult filming process for everyone. But what they churned out in the end at the helm of Verhoeven was just an absolute pop culture sci-fi action satirical classic. But they kind of went through hell, and I really do feel for Peter Weller as Murphy and as RoboCop as well, because Rob Bottin was under a very pressurizing schedule, a very tight schedule to get that costume, to get that suit together, and to set on time. And Peter Weller did not really get a lot of time at all to practice his robotic choreography or mime choreography in it. So Peter Weller was nearly replaced halfway through filming, but they kind of had to pull back, make time to practice the choreography and the mime artistry, and then he absolutely nailed it. But they nearly got rid of him at one point, believe it or not.
Yeah, he was quite. He spent a lot of time perfecting that walk. I've got down here that it was 6.5 hours of makeup application every day just for the face.
Oh Jesus!
Actors do suffer for their art. That is an example of it.
The guy was
apparently
the guy was getting to work at 2:30 a.m. and he was in the chair for nearly 7 hours, and he only had about 5 or 6 hours of actual filming before the rubber started peeling off his face. You know, because the glue will only hold it for so long.
That's really shocking because, like, you know, like for the majority of the film, we only just see his just like this part of his face. Like, so imagine like that much time on that part, and then all the other time on the, you know, on the rest of the face. Which honestly, I think the effects on that look actually really good.
I think all the back and neck and all that had to be done regardless, even when he was wearing the helmet. The other one is they spent a whole day just trying to get him to catch the car keys. Remember when she tosses? Yep. They took 50 takes to catch the car keys because
I never knew that. Wow.
The suit's hands were made of foam rubber. So every time that they were slightly off, they'd bounce right off his fingers. So it was like, 50 takes just to get him catching the car take. But they just did it. They kept doing it until they got it.
Yeah, there was some great principal photography in it as well. The way they used the light and the shades, like the light and the shadows as well, to make RoboCop look bigger and more menacing and authoritative than he actually was. So there was a lot of brains behind the scenes with this to bring out a lot of light and shade in it, and that worked like really, really well. And again, like I said in the monologue, they used a lot of practical effects. The team got into a lot of trouble with authorities. They were really going to be shut down at one point because of the level of the explosions that they were using. But that was a huge part of the film. It was so thrilling to see what they did at a time when in the 80s and into the 90s when they really blew up a lot of stuff before we got more CGI.
Yeah, and well, speaking of the 80s and big hair, Nancy Allen, right? Her first day on set was during the filming of the cheesy TV show segments, right? And that appeal dotted throughout the movie. And she was absolutely horrified, thinking she signed up to work with an incompetent director.
No way. No way.
Yeah, imagine she was on to her agent. You got me working with a bloody amateur.
I could imagine the Hollywood strap. That's it. I'm calling my agent. Calling the unions and gosh. But you were talking about the cast guys. Great fit. The baddies were really, really good. Kurtwood Smith as Clarence Boddicker as well. He was really nitty and gritty. He was an absolute badass in it.
Yeah. And what was the other guy? Ray Wise, the guy from Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
as Leon, he was good as well. One of the henchmen. But
Ronny
Cox. Good. Ronny Cox was just consummate evil man. He was just tremendous.
But they did a clever thing with Ronny Cox as Dick Jones, because in the making of RoboCop, behind the scenes, they briefly said that he was more kind of typed as being like the nice guy in nice roles, so they kind of like turned it on his head and they put him into the bad corporate guy like role, and it worked really well. Really great.
Apparently, Verhoeven had initially rejected the script because every major director in Hollywood had rejected the RoboCop script before it landed with Verhoeven. And he got it when he was on holiday in France. He read the first few pages and literally threw it in the bin, telling his wife it was a piece of shit. It was only after she took it out the bin, read the whole thing, and pointed out the satirical elements that he realised he'd nearly binned a masterpiece.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
There
That's what that idiomatic expression is, yeah?
Mm-hmm. So Peter Weller couldn't get in the police car with the suit on.
Really?
No, he could only wear the top half when he was in the police car. So he's sitting there dressed as RoboCop in his scanties, driving the car.
Oh, so he couldn't wear the bottom half of the suit, like he had to wear his boxers.
Yeah, he couldn't wear the bottom half of his suit, so he's wearing his tighty whities and the top half's RoboCop. Imagine imagine filming that, getting out the car. That would have been a scream.
That would have been a brilliant outtake. I'd buy that for $1.
That does sound very hilarious.
They had to carefully frame every shot to show just his robotic feet getting out first to maintain the illusion. Yeah, because you could, if you think back, you never saw him get out of the car from any kind of distance. And if you did, you only ever saw his feet below the level of the door, and the door would cover the rest of him. So yeah, it was quite funny.
Yeah, you'd see the foot like slam down or something like that. Yeah, they were very clever with the shots like that.
Oh, those clever kids.
Interestingly enough, I learned recently that Paul Verhoeven, the director of RoboCop, he was thrown out of the editing studio by the production company Orion Pictures. The film nearly got an X rating due to the
Yeah.
level of violence.
Yeah.
So he was kicked out. He wanted to keep most of it in, of course, but studio were like, no way. They trimmed it down. So the version that we see today, that's actually trimmed down a lot from what it could have been. So the violence could have been even more
Well, that's-
gratuitous. It could have
see-
had an X rating.
See, that's
Jesus.
yeah. That's Americans for you. They'll leave the sex in, but cut the violence.
Yeah, well, I mean, the violence was it was.
It was.
I don't know, John.
It was gratuitous, mate. It was gratuitous. That's what it was.
But you said it was almost gory. Did it not fit the bill of like gory for you? Do you reckon? Or
Well, yeah, it was gory, but it wasn't.
yeah,
Yeah, I've seen worse.
I've seen worse. I've seen worse in real life.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the death of Murphy was pretty bad. Like, you know, what I mean, Jesus Christ, I could only imagine what the X-rated version like could have had. Like,
It was a bit OTT though, wasn't it? I mean, they shot him. God knows how many. When it blew his arm off, that was pretty impressive.
that was yeah,
That was quite impressive.
yeah.
So,
That's it. I think Paul Verhoeven had a reputation as well. A lot of people say in like YouTube comments, you know, bring back the Verhoeven squiff bags. You know, when you have the actors reacting and their chests are getting blown out, like it's very bloody stuff.
Yeah, but that was
Funny enough,
sorry.
So
that was it? Sorry, was it the Last Picture Show or something? No, what was the movie we saw recently that somebody gets shot and instead of one bag going off, all the bags went off at once, and they kept it in the movie. Maybe it's something I was watching else out of this, but it was impressive. But anyway, it'll come back to me. Sorry, Sean. Carry on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the whole hand thing just reminded me of something. During the sort of autopsy scene where they were taking him apart, and just like they mentioned that one of his hands was still good. Did he keep the hand in that film, or is that just, or
remember?
Yeah, because the guy was saying like, I just want to be sure because like,
take it off.
Funny enough, that's actually one other piece like that was kept in like the remake one, where it was just this. Just his head, his lungs, and then there's like a little pipe leading up to the actual hand.
Yeah, no, they took his they took his good arm as well, in the first movie, because that guy's going no. He says the contract says no arms, take it off.
That's something I just realized. That would actually be kind of a good reference to either like the arm that got blown off or the one that was taken off. In the remake one. So that's a little fun thing I realized there. That's cool.
The hostage scene where he pulls a guy through the wall, that was based on the real 1978 Dan White incident, where this guy held people hostage, demanding his job back before assassinating the San Francisco mayor George Moscone and Harvey Milk. They even included the Twinkie detail as a nod to White's infamous Twinkie defense, claiming his murderous actions were due to depression from switching to a junk food diet.
Wow. A diet of Twinkies.
There you go.
That's very cool. It's something I never knew, actually. Yeah, that's very cool. Nice bit of trivia, Mr. Grumpy.
Yeah,
that's been good.
I do try.
I think one of my favorite scenes overall from the film was where the woman was being taken hostage by those goons, and he had her by like here, and RoboCop just shot between right in her skirt, and like him right in the penis.
Yeah,
that was brilliant.
This is one of my biggest things when we're watching movies where people take somebody hostage and hold them, right, with a gun, and I'm saying, if it was real life, you just put one in the guy's head straight away. You don't even think about it. A cop doesn't go, "Oh, I'll put my gun down." He just goes bang and shoots the guy in the head. That's it.
Wouldn't there be like a reaction if he gets hit shot in the head? Like, he possibly pulls the trigger.
No, It wouldn't matter. The guy, by the time the bullet has gone through the guy's head, his arms and whatever's all over the place. So
Flailed, yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite a comedic scene. It was kind of like serious. It was gripping, but you know, the female actor, like the hostage lady, like her reaction at the end, it's like, oh my god, my skirt! What have you done, you bastard? Like, and then she run towards him, you know, at the end, and
Thank
you know,
you.
thank you, and then she realizes, oh,
It's a machine that, and it's not
Yeah.
fully
Someone
functional.
would
Unlike
prefer that.
Beta.
Now, Sean, you said about, you know, I think that was one of your favorite scenes. And I mentioned this before a couple of weeks ago. My favorite scene of RoboCop from 1987 is his first entrance behind the glass at the police station, where everyone just stops, because that's when you have the sound effects, those massive stomps as well. And it's really intimidating. It creates this really cool atmospheric kind of like ambience. It's really, really awesome. That's one of my favorite moments of
Yeah,
the
a
of
good
the
build
movie.
up to seeing like, and everyone just like dropping everything, just go like, oh, what's that over there?
And he goes to the shooting range, and that's really cool as well.
Yeah.
Super cop. Right.
Yeah. I really like the gun too. Instead of like just going bang bang, it was like,
You know, I saw a video of Keanu Reeves at a shooting range.
Training for John Wick, was it?
I don't know, but he was at a shooting range, and he was, you know how they do that competition thing where they shoot all the targets and move on and shoot all the and he was doing that, and the guy could be John Wick. He was that good. It was really quite impressive.
That's one thing. Not getting off RoboCop too much, but I have to give Keanu Reeves a lot of credit for the training and the preparation that he did for John Wick. You can see a lot of his training behind the scenes on YouTube, at the range where they give the little beep and he does his thing, and it's props to you, Keanu Reeves. Awesome.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves is just like, he's a gem. He's an absolute gem of an actor.
He appears to be a genuine guy as well, you know. He's
a lot of people give him a lot. They give him a lot of shtick, and he's only suitable for certain types of roles and this and that. Yeah, he loves puppies. He's a really down to earth, really nice guy. Likes to meld in with the public and be unassuming or unnoticeable, like, as well. I think that's the beauty of Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Right, from his roles in like The Matrix to like from his roles in The Matrix to his work as John Wick and all his what was that time traveling one, Bill and Ted or something like that? Or Bill and Ted, Shadow the Hedgehog. He's just a brilliant actor, you know, and I need to watch more John Wick films.
You do?
Yes. I've seen The Matrix and like, okay, yeah, not to get too off topic. Let's get back to RoboCop.
Before we go back to RoboCop, let's get the poll going. What do we want to watch next week? Sean, what have you got?
Oh yes, it's my turn. That's because mine's so wait. Yeah. Okay, David, you go first.
No, it's not David.
Right. Is it between yourself and John, or is it all three?
No.
Wait, whose choice was it last? Whose choice was RoboCop?
RoboCop's was David.
Okay, so then it's you and me then.
Yeah.
All right. That's a tough one.
Not sure if I'll have to stick with John Carpenter or go for somebody else.
What was that?
Switch it up.
Yeah, let's switch it up.
Box number 1, box number 2.
Yeah, okay.
You know what? I'm gonna go for because we were talking about Keanu Reeves. I'm gonna go with John Wick.
Oh, okay. Right.
Nice work, young man.
Yes.
Right. So there we go. The poll is now running. Flash Gordon or John Wick?
I was just saying, the Ed 209 robot was created by a guy called Phil Tippett, and he went on from stop motion. He went then towards Jurassic Park in the early 90s with more digital animation. So he kind of had this evolutionary process within the Hollywood special effects industry. So that was
sort of art style. All right.
That was pretty cool. And we had Rob Bottin, or Rob Bottin, as they like to call him. And of course, buffs would know he was the guy behind John Carpenter's The Thing, and he helped create a lot of special effects and Total Recall as well. And that the RoboCop suit, the costume, the outfit, it looked a lot like Judge Dredd before it actually became a kind of a final version of RoboCop. It kind of went through a very interesting process.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
So,
Right,
Johnny
people.
Boy, what was your choice for next week?
My choice was Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon.
Savior of the universe.
Gordon's alive.
Yeah, I will say this. I will say this. If yours wins, and next week I make a choice, I'm gonna try to choose Ted. To go with that.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I don't. Who is it? Is it Adam Sandler?
No, it's
Who's
I keep forgetting his name. The guy who made Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
All right. I don't like him either. Anyway, right, guys, get voting. We've only got one vote. Oh no, we've got 3 votes. Oh my God, it's looking
vote.
Looking bad for
Let's
Flash.
get the troll room involved. What did the troll room think of RoboCop? What's their thoughts?
I don't know. Have you got any thoughts, troll room, or have you given up thinking for the summer? Too hot to think.
Are we that entertaining? You just don't want to chat.
Are we that have we not entertained you?
Do you not have enough bread and circuses?
We've got 6 concurrent viewers apparently, and we've only had 3 votes. Come on, people, vote. Get the votes.
Yeah, it is pretty warm. That could be affecting viewership. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's
it could be affecting the Wi-Fi as well because it's just a mess.
Scottish Wi-Fi, not great, is it? Not great up in Paisley.
Nope, it isn't.
Oh, right.
Really good trivia, John. I was really impressed with that trivia that you dug up. A lot of stuff I never knew about RoboCop. That was good. That was very cool.
Espresso Mechanic says RoboCop is a good film, but as he said, Verhoeven doesn't know when to stop when it comes to gore. And you're right. You're right, because Starship Troopers, cracking movie. I really enjoyed it, but again, very gory. Very gory.
Yeah. The bugs were eating the humans.
I just found the whole thing fantastically done. But Starship Troopers, I really liked it as a movie. I might pick that one. I don't think I'll pick Showgirls, though. I don't think we can do that justice on this.
Yeah. Did you know that there is a remake of, I was saying this to Ben, there's a remake of The Running Man, which is going to hit cinemas in November, I think.
Really?
My God. Yeah, The Running Man. I wonder what that's going to be like. There's a trailer out for it.
Man, Forrest Gump.
Sorry?
Who's the Running Man? Forrest Gump?
No, there was a movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was a science fiction movie.
Yes, I was making a joke there.
Oh,
that is called a joke, sir.
Okay, sorry. Well, it didn't land. So, yeah. Does it need a remake?
I don't think so. Apparently, the book that it's based on of a similar title is supposed to be very, very good. I'm not sure if the Schwarzenegger version did the book any justice. Maybe the remake might be a little bit better, perhaps in that regard. I'm not sure. It was the guy. The director is, I think it's Edgar Wright. Is that his name? He directed like Shaun of the Dead and some other top films.
I don't know.
You could check right out, mate. Ask Rock.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of another film I could suggest later on.
Yeah. What?
Maybe I've seen people who made Shaun of the Dead, but not Shaun of the Dead. No way, hell. Hot Fuzz.
All right, Hot Fuzz. Yeah. What was the All right, Running Man. The Running Man 2025. Josh Brolin.
Interesting.
Director Edgar Wright. Yep. Writers Michael Bacall, Stephen King. and Edgar Wright. Stars Glenn Powell as the Running Man and Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, yeah.
He's some age now, is he not? What
Thanos. Oof.
Who?
Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
Was Josh Brolin Thanos?
Isn't he? Let me check. Be sure.
And Old Boy, he was the lead in the remake of the South Korean gem that is Old Boy as well.
He was Thanos, yeah. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that was Josh Brolin. Bloody hell. Mind you, he had a fair amount of makeup on.
Really?
Yeah, well, the detail on Thanos and definitely in Infinity War was definitely like well done. Like even had like little bits of hair on his chin to show that. So he shaves.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Stephen.
In your personal opinion, do you think some films
Okay.
Do you think there are films out there that should get remake in general?
Yeah. Certain films just shouldn't be. Well, I don't think they should be remade. It's like there was no point in revisiting the Thing. No point at all. I don't think it was John Carpenter's one.
I'm not seeing it, but I
read
a synopsis.
I know it wasn't strictly speaking a remake, right? It was
more like a prequel,
but it didn't work. It was more or less a remake of the Thing, and it just didn't work. It didn't work for me. I don't know if it worked for anyone else, but it didn't work for me.
Paramount didn't send out the order to say gloss over all those brilliant practical effects with CGI. It could have been a hell of a lot more creepier and better, perhaps. That's my view on it.
Okay, chalk it up to another one of Paramount's sins.
It completely escaped me that Stephen King's nom de plume or pseudonym was Richard Bachman, who wrote. It was Stephen King who wrote the book for the Running Man. Interesting, that completely escaped me.
Yeah. Right. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. We got 3 votes. 3 votes, people. But they're all for John Wick. So it's John Wick.
Holy shit. I feel honored. Thank you.
John Wick's a cracker. It's a cracker.
I tried to watch. What was his last one? John Wick 4?
Don't spoil it. I've not seen that.
Yeah, don't worry. I haven't seen it either.
There's Ballerina. That has been out the past.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. So the one before Ballerina, I started watching it. It got as far as the roof shootout and gave up because it just went on for way too long. I just gave up. I thought, no, this is just, I can't take this crap. If you're going to have a shootout that lasts for over 10 minutes, what's the point?
I've only seen the first one.
Unless it's Heat.
Oh, yeah.
So of all the films, I've only seen the first one. I am interested in watching the other ones. See where it goes from there.
The first one was the best one.
I try to avoid. Funny enough, there are times when I could have watched it a lot sooner, but I wanted to wait until after Sonic the Hedgehog 3 to watch it. So I can just focus more on his portrayal of Shao rather than just John Wick. Because if you watch a bunch of movies of the same guy and over and over again, you start to see less of the characters, more of the actor. I would say he's very different from his character Neo or Shadow or any of those guys. From what I've seen in John Wick, he's not the same damn thing. It's different.
Well, maybe differ there.
Hey, I thought Keanu Reeves was great in Constantine. He's got apart from the Matrix and Wick, he was very good in Constantine, and that's got a great monologue from the devil in that near the end as well.
I do like Constantine. Yeah, I don't think there's an awful lot of variation between Neo and John Wick. When you put them side by side, they're both pretty much monosyllabic.
Monotone.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
Monotone.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen The Matrix. So
yeah.
I completely see what you mean, because you've got Ian McShane's like character going Jonathan, and Keanu Reeves just says Winston, and and these guttural utterances.
Yeah. Right. So, what was I going to say? Yeah, talking about remakes. Did you think that Judge Dredd needed a remake?
Another one?
No. Well, we had Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone, and then we had Judge Dredd with
Keith Urban,
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban. Sorry,
Carl Urban. I don't know. I watched the one with Carl Urban.
It was grittier,
and it wasn't too bad.
It was all right, actually. I think the Stallone one was a bit more kind of glossy, very kind of like Hollywood-like, whereas the Urban one was a lot more violent and grittier, of course, a lot more raw.
In some respects, the Stallone one was close to the comic in that he definitely never took his helmet off, did he?
True that.
But
very comic book like, yeah, correct.
But
for me,
the other one, the Carl Urban one, was close to the comic in that he it was more violent and grittier.
Yeah.
Like for me, when it comes to like remakes, I think that there are things that might need a remake, and there are things that you really shouldn't need a remake. Like, for example, like quickly talking about like Disney remakes, okay? Because a lot of them are kind of pish, but like some I kind of get. Like some are like older films, and you want to like sort of bring them into them like modern part. So like 101 Dalmatians, that was a good remake. Back in the day, of the old cartoon one.
With Glenn Close, that one.
That's the thing. I mean, why make live action movies of cartoons? What's wrong with just leaving?
Well, to get people like you to watch it, because like, what chance are you going to watch a cartoon?
Yeah, but I watched Bambi. I watched the Aristocrat. You're not going to. I mean, The Lion King. Why would you make a remake of that and make it live?
Okay, action? That one. I'm not defending that one. Yeah, you should. I think because it's become less of a sort of art form, like, and it's become much more of a cash grab. Because the Jungle Book, the Jungle Book was brilliant. The Jungle Book was good. I like that. I like that remake even more than the original.
I haven't seen.
I generally enjoy it.
Yeah,
I highly recommend it. It's actually really good. And then you get really bad remakes that just like butcher some of the characters, like Mulan, Snow White,
what?
And there's currently the whole Stitch controversy.
What's wrong with the Stitch thing? You said that was quite good.
Yeah, I watched it. There were some parts I liked about it, but they also, one of the problems was they cut out a major antagonist from the original film. They turned a character who was somewhat a semi-antagonist into a villain, and worst of all, he was voiced by Alec Allen from Hangover. It was not good. He had no Russian accent, kind of butchered the character. But then there's a whole like sort of aftermath because it's kind of different from the original, and people are kind of like complaining about that, like, oh god, it's terrible. Like I watched it, it wasn't as bad as like, but it could have been better,
Yeah.
But then there's remakes like How to Train Your Dragon. I've seen the original. I've seen the original a dozen times. I absolutely love the original. And when I heard this was getting a remake, I was like, oh god, DreamWorks, don't do it. Don't follow Disney's lead. Do not do this. But to my surprise, it was actually a really good remake. It was fun and enjoyable.
It was pretty much exactly shot for shot.
It was missing one of the original scenes from the original film, which I think they could have like. Yeah, and there were quite a few changes they made, but overall, it was still very much the same film. And like, for example, one thing I was kind of worried about is like the sort of designs of the dragons, because like Toothless was like made more realistic, but also kept much of his like animation, like his old animation sort of art style, made his face. The other dragons looked very much more hardcore realistic, and I was worried about that. When I saw the pictures, okay, like they look very different from from the original films. But after watching the films, I actually did enjoy the designs a lot, and I thought they actually look very good. So yeah, I think that's a remake that actually did well. I kind of don't want DreamWorks to do any other remakes of certain films. Like, come on, you don't need to make a remake of Shrek. Okay,
as long as they don't go near Michael J. Fox's Back to the Future, just do not go near BTTF. Don't go near it.
Just don't do it.
Yeah, and there's something that actually does take me off a bit is that Disney are remaking Moana. We already that. I get remaking an older film, but that one's too recent.
Yeah,
and you also just made.
When was Moana made?
Well, I think it was 20. What am I saying? Moana. Hopefully the Wi-Fi.
Ask Perplexity. Ask Grok.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago. Yeah, that was less than 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was still very recent compared to other films.
Anyway, I'm knackered and I am roasting. I don't know what you guys are doing, but I am cooking here. And I've had
I have a light on me, so yeah, I'm getting too hot here. So
I've had enough of listening to Sean ranting about remakes of his famous DreamWorks cartoons. So
thank you for joining us, Troll Room. Everyone,
talk about one it was actually a good film. Just saying, don't remake Shrek, don't remake Kung Fu Panda.
I know.
Just don't fuck those ones up. Because you hit a home run with How to Train Your Dragon.
He's still going. Bloody hell. He's still going.
I like to talk. That's why you invited me here. I like to talk.
Great. For you.
So yeah.
Bye-bye.